Welcome to another Let's Build, guys. This one is going to be a Twitter clone, and we're going to do something similar to the last Let's Build, which was a blog with comments, but add some user functionality into the mix. So we'll be talking about authentication, roles, and stuff like that, what a user can and can't do when they're in a given state. So if they're logged in, you'd see something like this. Pulling in a handy Gravatar URL for an image. A user can tweet, or it's all spelt with an extra character if you didn't notice. So I'm mocking Twitter, but not to the fullest degree. But anyway, when you do post a new tweet, you can do, I have one already, but just go ahead and post it. It redirects to the same page, and then we'll have our new public facing tweets. If I were to log out, we'll still see those tweets, but you'll notice some of the UI on the left and right changes. To get any new tweet, you're actually, prompted to log in first. So there's kind of a barrier in between, and that's kind of a big thing that needs to happen with a typical web app. So let's dive right in. The last series, I kind of did more of a foundational approach. So I talked about fundamentals and stuff like that. This one I'm going to try to speed things up just because that last series was like an hour and a half long. So hopefully you enjoy that. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or contact me directly. As always, this stuff's going to be on GitHub, and I'll share the link in the description and or on my blog. So definitely check that out if you want to download this and run it on your machine just to get the full idea. Okay, so we're going to recreate something like this. You'll see I'm using Bulma again. I might continue just using that throughout this series. Typically, I'll roll my own CSS because I don't really need an entire framework to use, but sometimes for stuff like this where you're just teaching or learning, it's very handy. Let's kick things off. I'm going to jump back to my terminal and kill the server. Control C. And I'm going to actually cd out of that directory into my sites directory, which is just a basic where I keep my sites. And in this one, I'm going to actually do a Rails new. And this one, I won't put demo in front of the name. I'll just do Twitter. And we'll go ahead and scaffold that out. Great. So I'll cd into that. We can go ahead and get init. I think it's already initialized, but I'll do it once more. I'll just do init. Great. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is think about how this application is going to work, and it's essentially posts from a user account perspective. So before we get into the user side of things, let's get the actual tweet functionality done. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just do this newer command. So Rails generate, and I'm going to put scaffold in front of what I'm doing. And I'm going to title this tweet with 3 E's. And it should run what we need. We can scaffold it with the model. So in this case, what I want is a tweet. Let's do it 3 E's. And it will be text. And we'll probably run with that. We can add things later, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So you see it generated all of our views, our controller, our model, and some migrations to run this. So let me go ahead and open this in our text editor. And I'm going to double check my migration just to make sure it looks good in the DB folder. And we have a text entry for tweet on the tweets table. We're creating that table as well. So we have that. We have our controller already scaffolded. So the last series, I did this all by hand. This one is, doing it the Rails way, which makes it really easy to scaffold out and get things rolling. You can choose to do either. You'll notice some new things in this file that return JSON responses, which is handy. We won't get into that so much in this video, but we will probably in the future, so stay tuned. But you'll see things that we talked on in the previous build. I'm going to go ahead and double check the model as well. We have it there. Great. And then all of our views should be all ready to go. They're going to look pretty plain Jane. We've got just a table view with some basic styles. So to get this to really work, I'm going to do Rails. We'll clear that. Rails DB migrate. And we migrated that new table in with the tweets entry as well. So you'll see that there. We can stage this stuff and commit it. Scaffold tweet. Great. So if all goes right, we can do Rails server or Rails S, whatever you prefer to type, and it boots on localhost 3000. This should update to just be kind of a basic site. And we're stuck with this default screen. So we actually need to update our routes file to include this whole tweet scenario. So we can go to our config file and routes. We have resources tweets, but all we need to really actually do is have a root URL. So we could just type root and tweets, or we'll do, let's see, tweets index. So we're getting the index action on our controller as our root path. So we should see all the front-facing tweets now with this reloaded. There we go. Essentially, at its bare bones, we can go ahead and create a tweet. And we'll redirect to the show page, which is the actual tweet itself. And we can go back to the index and we'll see all of our tweets. You can show, edit, and destroy. So essentially, that's Twitter in a nutshell, you know. So it's got the CRUD model where we're using the create, read, update, and destroy kind of actions on it. So we can go ahead and make this look like the app we want it to at this point. I'm going to first install a few gems to make this a little easier on ourselves. I have a few that I used in the last series that I'm going to use in this one as well. We're going to start with, of course, better errors. I'm going to go grab these from Ruby gems just so it's easier. Gems. And if you're following along, you can probably just copy my gem file and put it inside yours and run bundle install, and you'll be in good shape. But I'll show you if you're doing this on your own and you just want to follow along just to get the feel for things, then this is how I'm going to go ahead and do it. I already know this is only going to be in my development environment, so I'm going to put that in there. I also want to use guard in my development environment. Guard live reload. So I need guard to run live reload. So I'm going to download it, add the gem file, add it to the gem file, I should say. The same for live reload. Okay, there it is. So we want to add that one as well. And before I get ahead of myself, I know I need to initialize with a guard file. So I'm going to check the repo on this one just to double check I'm doing things right. And I also want to add this to our string right after that. So require false. And I'll run this. Before I do run that command though, I'm going to go ahead and run bundle for good sake. Just get those actually installed. Let's double check it's here. We have guard live reload. Great. So I can go ahead and run this now, which I copied from that repo, which might give you a warning, it might not. So I went ahead and edited that file, or I added that file. It's to our project now. You'll notice it show up over here. We should be able to keep it as is for now. And on top of live reload and guard, I want to add Bulma. So that is going to be on our actual dependency, not a development dependency. So I need to go find that one. Oops. I think it's the Rails, Bummel Rails. Yeah, get that one. And we'll go ahead and add that to just the next one down on our regular dependencies. And I do need one more, which we will get into. Or actually, I need civil form too. We used that in the last series, so let me grab that. Simple form. Copy that and go back over. Same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and install those two for now because there's a bit of setup we have to do. So I'm going to do bundle once more. Great. For Bulma, I know I need to import in our style sheet assets, style sheets, and application.css. Rename that to SCSS. And I'll actually delete this scaffold file because that's going to conflict with some stuff. That was generated when we ran that initial scaffold. So we'll do @import Bulma. And to verify that, I'm going to start my server and just double check that it worked. Just to see if the text formatting changed on our server. And if it did, we should be in good shape. It did. Okay, great. So Bulma's all set up. Simple form requires a little more finesse to get working. Let's go to its homepage. We need to run a generator, which is this Rails generate command. Oops. Okay, I'll turn down my server. Rails generate, simple form install. If you're using Bootstrap or Foundation, you can throw that flag at the end so it would look like this. If you can spell it. Something like that. I am using Bulma, so I'm not going to use it. Maybe there'll be a ported version of Bulma soon, who knows. But there isn't yet. So I'm going to run that, and it should be all set. We don't need to run any migrations or anything. It just kind of adds some templating for us, so when we create new forms, everything's kind of set to go. One big thing you might consider before you run that generator in the very beginning, if you're watching this and haven't done this yet, if you happen to install simple form first on all these gems, it will automatically convert all your forms to simple form. So that's a really cool approach if you know to do that beforehand. Chances are you don't always do that beforehand. So in my case right now, I didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and have to change our forms to do what we want. A little more typing, but it's okay. All right, so we have that. One last one I believe we need is going to be called a gravatar image tag. So I'm going to go back. And this is just kind of a handy way to display a gravatar in a sense. Someone put together a sweet repo of, how you can just input the user's email and it's all ready to spit out everything you need at any size you need. So go ahead and add that. And then our final one and the big one of this big topic of this video is going to be one called Devise, which is basically a really convenient way to have users on your site as opposed to doing it from scratch, which can be very verbose and complicated. So Devise is your friend in that regard. And it's very customizable, which is great. So I'm going to install that. And it comes with some setup as well. So we'll go ahead and run bundle at this point. And then I'm going to go ahead and configure Devise. I'm going to go to the home page again. And there's quite a bit of documentation here. Devise, you can do a lot with it. You can even do social sign-on with it. There's extensions and tons of documentation on how to do things. So definitely check it out. So I'm going to use this generator like we did in the past with simple form. And it'll walk you through I'll give you a step process of things you should probably consider doing before you move on. So we're going to go ahead and add this line to our environments development environment, as it says here. This just sets a localhost default URL for our mailers. If you happen to do mailing locally, this is kind of how that ends up routing. So we need to set that up, because Devise does do all the mailers when it comes to signing up a user or doing the lost password kind of thing, if you're familiar. So we need to go to config, environments, development, and you could just put this anywhere. I'll just throw it at the bottom and maybe just put Devise default URL. Great. So the next step is to make sure you have a root, which we do. So that's already good to go. We do need these things called notices or alerts in our application base file. I already kind of have something implemented that I'm going to use just to show you guys how this works combined with Bulma. So I'm going to go ahead and start implementing some actual code at this point, and we'll get that going. So I'm going to go to my views, layouts, application, and here we have just a basic file we're working with. And you can kind of tie into Rails when it does these notices or alerts, and to do so you can do an if statement and type flash notice. Oops, I can't type today. So we'll end that just to end it, make sure we do. And then inside I'll add some Bulma classes. So this will be notification is primary. I think I added one just to target both of these on my own for custom stuff. So we got Emmett doing some handiwork there. And then inside I'll just put a notice p tag. And in that will actually be the notice. So we're doing this if statement simply because I don't want this div to display. It's got some padding on it, and if it were to display on its own without the actual notice present, because that only returns if there is one, we'd see these bars of color at the very top, and that would be ugly and kind of confusing. So I'm going to do one more that's actually for the alert. So this is if something goes wrong or you're locked out of your account or something like that. Kind of the same scenario. So we'll do notification is danger. This is Bulma. Global notification. And we'll do the same thing with the p tag. Alert. This one we'll call alert though. And these are what you can copy from that command line thing it spits out if you want. And then I will add alert with the equal sign on the rails. Great. So that's essentially going to handle some statements of when the user logs in and logs out. We won't get into straight immediately into the user login, log out stuff yet, but I do want to finish this step process that Devise gives you. The next one, number 4, is to copy views for customization to your app. I'm going to do this because by default, a lot of the forms are messed up with our Bulma install going on. So I probably won't walk through each view verbatim. I might do some copy and pasting, but it's essentially just adding some classes and markup to make stuff look pretty. So we'll see how that works in a second. I'm going to go ahead and run that generator though. So Rails, we can just type it or you can copy and paste it. Let's do views, and it should generate quite a few views. You see how many there are. It's pretty nuts. So great. I think at this point we'll add everything. And we'll say installed application gems and dependencies. I think that's how you spell it. Cool. All right. So we can do git status. I think we should be all good. Yeah, clean. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to do a Rails server if I can type. I'll go back to our root directory, which will actually be here. And we've got everything going at this point. Next, we want to essentially add some markup to make this thing look like it should. So I'm going to start there and start on an application layout to go with, since we kind of ended there. I'll start with a nav. Isinfo in Bulma typically means it's going to be this blue color, which is, I don't know, with Twitter, the real Twitter, that's kind of close to their brand color. So I went with that. You can use whichever you want. So this logo we're going to have here is going to link to the root. And we'll just give it a class of navbar item. And then we're going to make a block out of it because we want some content in between. That's actually more markup. It's H1. And then this will have a class of title. And then I'll throw a kind of a sizing class on it as 5. And we'll give it the title Twitter with 3 T's. Okay. And looks like I missed a bit there. It's got that. I missed one div that should be here. Navbar. Yeah, navbar brand. And this should wrap this entire thing. And then below that, we need to actually have this hamburger icon that Bulma comes with. I'll go ahead and type that in. You can go ahead and either increase the video speed or just fast forward if you don't want to watch me do this. And our actual nav is going to have this. This is the part that would, if it were on mobile, it would probably truncate and kind of collapse. Similar to Bootstrap if you've used it. Same with Foundation. It's kind of a common pattern. Menu. Close that div. And we've got quite a few things here. We'll start with div that I'm going to have all the way to the left or right side, excuse me. So navbar end. And we'll do a field. This is all Bulma stuff. The new tweet path is an actual built-in path once you have these routes generated on your project. So I'm gonna go back into CD Twitter. And if you run rake routes at any time in your project, it will spit back all those routes in the sense of you can have one that is new tweet, edit tweet, the root path, which you've put, and it tells you which action it goes to on your controller and the URI pattern. So in our case, the new tweet underscore path is the URL we want straight to that path. So you just add underscore path to it and it should be all set. So you might see more things like that as we go. That kind of explains it, I hope. So that's our nav. The rest I think is going to yield within the body in a container. So let's see what our site's looking like at this point. Undefined local variable new tweet path. Oh, I forgot an E. So let's go add that. There we go. Okay. So it looks like there's issues here with this button. I might have forgotten a div. Okay, we'll come back to that. It looks like there's an error with this sizing and where these things should be going. I do have some styles that I had to add to make our logo look kind of how we wanted it. It totally wasn't much, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that stuff just to get it kind of in place. So I'll go to style sheets, our application style sheets. All right, so I wanted to do this as navbar brand title. I'm just doing it in the main root application because I really haven't needed to add tons of styles to this app. We may do something more like that in the future, but not really the focus. So later I add a gravatar that I want rounded. It doesn't round the corners by default, so I'm just gonna add that now. And we need the image as well, just for safety's sake. And this is Sass, so if you're in a CSS file, your mileage may vary here. And then I think I don't need this, but I'm gonna add it. Oh, I do need this, I remember. So that's all I need as far as CSS goes. All that did really, that you'll probably notice, is makes our logo white. Oh, you know what? I need to run guard on our project. So I'm going to run bundle exec guard. So it compiles our Sass and does everything. So we should be all set. I'm going to go ahead and go to live reload. I think it's on. Nope, no it is. Oh, you know what I did? It's called navbar brand. Now we should be good. There we go. Haha. Okay. We have that in place. Let's go to, we scaffolded out our index page, and this is going to be, in essence, where all of our tweets are going to be at. So I'm going to go to that page and do a little bit of markup. We've got our application to a decent point. It looks like there was a little bug going on with it, but we'll come back. So for this page, I want to add a section, and we'll call it a class section. Give it a container class. So we want our containing stuff to not hit the window, and we need to give it a columns class because I'm going to wrap some of this containing stuff. So in the middle, we're going to have our feed. And I'm going to actually make a partial with this one. So you can make a partial at any time and render it into another page in Rails. So to start with, I'm going to do so. Render and feed. And in that feed file, I'm going to honestly get rid of this stuff. We'll start there. And I made that file. In that file, we want to add quite a bit of content. First is the left column. So since we have columns with BOMA, within that, it's based on Flexbox. So any column on the inside is going to flex to that container because that's positioning flex. So if you think about that, we can do columns, or column, excuse me, and then just is half, which is half, 50%-ish. So I forgot the dot, add that. Let's keep that for now. We'll kind of make a makeshift if the user's signed in thing going on. So we'll actually add class, media. Okay, and then we want to display all of our tweets as well. So let's start there. And with Rails, we'll do tweets dot each dot do tweet, and we're pulling tweets from our controller. the index action, if that makes sense. I'm going to end this for now, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. So in our controller, we have this tweets symbol, and from that we can access all of our tweets basically. I'm going to order this though, and it's going to be, you can query it, order created at, and then just throw in descending if you want. Up to you how you want to order it. Okay, and then we'll go further into our feed and actually kind of build out what a typical tweet will look like. And just for safety's sake, I'll put break tags, and then we can finally put our tweet, which is going to be this tweet. Since we called it tweet, it'll actually, this is another one of those poor naming conventions, but I understand what it means. Essentially, our column in the database is called tweet, but we're querying it for the tweet, if that makes any bit of sense, since we're using the same name here. We're grabbing it that way. Okay, so to test that out, we can see what's going on. It looks like I have something wrong here. Tweets. Oh, I forgot this part. There we go. Okay, so we kind of have some stuff going on here. It looks goofy, but we need to still add another column so it looks like what we had. So I'll go ahead back and add that. And then let's see if we're still in our article here. After the content, we want to add actions basically on the tweet. Like if you wanted to like it or go to the tweet actual permalink, or delete the tweet, or you can edit the tweet if you're logged in, kind of thing. So I'll start doing that. I'm going to add some icons. If you're following along, you do need to add the icon font awesome library to your application. I need to go grab that URL. So these won't work immediately, but we'll get that to work. Okay, so we have that done. Before I forget, I'll go grab that, go to our layouts file, and I'm just going to install it this way. However you install it is up to you, but this is probably the pretty easiest solution. I'm going to open my actual project up just to grab that URL because it's pretty long. Don't want to actually grab it. So you'll probably get it from some CDN of some sort or somewhere, and Rails has a style sheet tag helper in a sense, so you can go ahead and add it this way. We'll just kind of carry that out and keep that the Rails way. So essentially, instead of the typical style sheet rel equals style sheet crap, this does that all for you. You just kind of pass in where the link should go to. So I put that before this one and then after our actual application style sheet. That's something to remember, keep in mind. Okay, so we're back to our feed. I want to add a few more icons that do different actions. Right now we have this one going to our actual tweet. Let's add one more that goes to our edit path. So we can do, I just noticed I forgot the equal sign there. Don't forget that. That about does it. We only want the user who's logged in to be able to do these things though, so we'll probably revisit this file. Of course we will, because we need to get the user's real name and their email or their handle, all those things. But we'll come back. Looks like I'm doing the same thing. Yeah, link to tweets is, we keep throwing in the wrong E's, so we need, there we go. And wow, look at the pencils on there. There's some stuff going on that should not be. Oh, I know why. I didn't end the I. There we go. Okay. So at this point we can link to the tweet. There it is in all of its glory. We can edit it. Same thing. And delete it if we want. So I'm going to keep it for now just so I have something to look at. And you notice the styles I applied are doing that rounded corner thing. If you don't want that, you don't have to apply those. No big deal. Let's go ahead and kind of probably wrap up this feed file. We need to get the other column in our app just to make this look like it should. So I'm going to do, I think I'll make another partial. This one will just be who to follow. I think I called it that, yeah. And we'll close that. Let's make a partial that is called that, underscore who to follow, HTML.erb. And this file is going to kind of carry on the same thing with some Bulma stuff. Alright guys, so we have our who to follow widget, I would call it, that goes to the right of our actual tweets panel. We have some layout issues, but I still need to add one more to the mix on the left side, kind of like Twitter does. If you're used to that, so if we go to Twitter, so we could use it as an example. I probably should have done this in the very beginning. Don't know if I'm logged in or what. But you can't do much until you are logged in, so I guess I'll just log in. So we have the left side kind of giving a, interface for your own account and your tweets, who you're following, your followers, and then who to follow on the right. Some of this stuff I'm literally just gonna kind of mock, but not actually code out, because that would take me forever. I don't need to invent Twitter again, but I'm just kind of giving you the concepts here. So we have our right side of who to follow in this regard. And we still need the left side, which I'm going to call trends. And I'm going to put that again on a partial. We need to create that file. And I didn't mention before, but I'm literally just using some static content for the who to follow section. I would task you with maybe propagating that with other users if you create more than one after you finish building this app on your own. And hopefully you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So we've got our feed built. I'm on my trends HTML file at this point. And inside this one, we're going to basically kind of just build up some more of our layout with Bulma. So we're getting there. We have our basic layout built, I think. There we go. And it looks like we got a issue with this media box. Looks like this one's outside of the loop for some reason. So I think I might have a flare div going on in our feed. So I'll troubleshoot that and return. So guys, I figured out, I'm jumping ahead of myself, and this box will actually be what our form is when we author a tweet. I kind of confused myself there, so let me double back and add support for this. In this case, we're going to actually add a form to add our tweet. So let's go ahead and render a partial again. Tweets form. And we actually have our form here. You'll notice this is generated with Rails at this point. I actually want to use simple form. Up to you if you want to do that or not. This one looks a little less simple to me, so I'm going to kind of copy from my old notes here. Simple form 4. And we'll do @tweet and do pass in F as the field, and then inside that we need our, if you want to add error notifications, and these will display if something with the form is off. So we'll do a field. This is Bulma, and we'll have just finally our input. Input, which will be our tweet with 3 E's, remember, and I'll label this tweet about it. And we'll give the input HTML a class. Class of text area, since we want it to be an actual, not more than one line, or yeah, text area. And comma separate that. We don't want a wrapper. And this is all part of simple form too. You can customize how your form fields look by doing all these things. So label HTML, we'll have brackets for that. I'm gonna go ahead and end my Rails thing because it's bugging me. Class, label. And finally, our placeholder can be, what could it be? Compose a new tweet. Something like so. And we do need our submit button too, so I'll add that. Dot button. And submit. Give it a class, why not? Button. And then isInfo for our kind of brand color for this project. So if all goes right, I believe I did it wrong. Let's see. I might close this file. We're in our feed. This needs one more E. I keep doing that. Okay, undefined method model name for nil class. So what's going on here is that I don't have access to a certain model name in our controller. So I need to add that to our controller for the index view. And to essentially do this, you kind of need to do what you would do on the show or new view. So we'll actually do tweet.new. Because when I create a new tweet, I want it to not redirect to the show page in the end, but rather to just the same landing page. So if all goes right, this should hopefully work. And I mistyped that as well. Error notification. There we go. Only problem is I do not see the form. So where might that be? Did I forget to put the equal sign? I did. There we go. So that's in essence what will be the final file that we'll use for our form to actually be creating these fields. Still a bug in our layout. Somewhere I don't have a closing div that's causing this flex box to go wacky. So let me look at my elements. Got columns, 1/4, 1/2. This should be within that is half column. So let's double check our code. Okay, so I ended this div too early. I believe it needs to be at the very end here. Let's see what happens. There we go. See, guard was our friend there. I didn't even have to refresh. Awesome. Great. So at this point, besides this little hiccup in our application layout file, I'm going to go ahead and call this pretty much ready for the user stuff. So in the next part, we'll go ahead and start adding the user-based roles, and I'll clean up this application file offline so you guys can have the right code when the time comes. So I'll see you in the next one.